and welcome to our third episode of our Festive Celebration series, brought to you by the Business of Data and Crinium. Goodness me, we are well and truly into this series now. I do hope you've got your Christmas shopping sorted, or at least you've made a start. Now, this week we are joined by another three wonderful leaders from the data analytics space who are going to tell me all about what is on their data and analytics wish list. We would love to hear from you as well, so please do share this live stream to your network and jump in the comments and let us know if those wish list items are on your wish list as well. But for now, let's dive in. Maritza, lovely to see you. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Catherine, and it's lovely to be back and chatting to you.
Absolutely. Well, happy holidays to you. Really excited you could join us on this festive celebration. And the first thing I want to ask you is, how's your year been? How was 2021?
So 2021 was actually really exciting. So lots of interesting things happening. I think a lot of good stuff is happening in the industry as well. There's a really big focus on data culture and driving data culture in organizations. And I've looked at a lot of conversations, sat in a lot of conversations around data culture, and it feels like the industry is it's at the right place. You know, we've been so focused on solutions and technology and platforms, and it feels like we are finally at that point where we are looking at data analytics from a human and a people point of view. So that's exciting me at the moment.
I absolutely love that. I think that's fantastic. And I think with that, I think what I have noticed, obviously being able to follow your journey as well, is that there has been a bit of an evolution from this quick fix technology is going to sort it all out as well, in that by going into the human and the process side of it. It's moving away from, this thing will patch it, this thing will sort it, and actually kind of rolling the metaphorical sleeves up to get down and dirty with
100%.
all of the things we need to do. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Now, the idea of these interviews, Maritza, is for you to tell me what is going to be on your data and analytics wish list this year.
So, I really had to think about this, and I had a very long list, a really long list, but I had to prioritize. Like, I continuously ask my business users to prioritize their backlogs. So I don't know if you remember, sort of very early in the 2000s, there were all these body swap movies. And, they're really funny because, of course, who doesn't want to see someone struggle with this new world that they all of a sudden wake up into? But at the end of these movies, there's always a lesson around, how we break down barriers and get a better understanding of other people, because, there was this confrontation of own bias and the way that we look at the world. So my wish for next year, or for the new year, is that data teams and their business communities, their business users, can swap places for a month. Because I think that, that's really going to give a deep understanding of each other's worlds and what we are struggling with and what our challenges are if we don't have easy access to information, if you're a business user, but also, an understanding of the complexity of the data world and, what we have to navigate in order to deliver to the business in reasonable timeframes. And, recently I had an experience where, as part of our data strategy, one of our deliverables, I'm the data product owner. So I'm actually the user. And it was such a humbling experience, because I turned into what is my nightmare of absolute worst business user. I couldn't always clearly articulate what it was that I needed. So I could see it in my head and I could visualize it, but to actually articulate it was really hard. And I changed my mind a lot. Once I actually got access to the solution and I started engaging with it was like, oh, but this is working or that's not working, etc. And like I said, it was just such an eye opener to be on the other side of the table that I normally sit on. And it's just, it was such a great insight into what our users sometimes have to deal with.
100%. And that act of kind of walking in someone else's shoes is such a powerful one. And I mean, obviously now we all know that Father Christmas or elves or whoever is probably not going to be able to deliver this for you. So what other active steps do you think you'll be taking to make this wish come true for yourself? How can you encourage this type of behavior?
So I think for me, it's going to be around building communities. That's definitely where my focus will be next year. And we've already made a really good start on that through training and through our Data Bytes community, which is a community that's open to anyone, not just the analytics community. And it's a great way for us to showcase what we're doing with data and analytics. Again, not just from an analyst or a data office point of view, but anyone in the business can be part of that community and showcase what they're doing with data and analytics. So that was a great start to building our analytics community. But I think there's so much more that we can do. So that will definitely be the focus. And, hopefully at the end of that exercise, it will be like the end of a body swap movie where we have a better understanding of each other's worlds, and we can get over some of the very deeply entrenched biases and preconceived ideas in our industry.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you're speaking to my heart passion when you talk about community, because it's such a big passion area of mine. I absolutely love the various communities we have within the business of data, and of course, Corinium as well. And I mean, what are your kind of key learnings from the successes you have had already that you can share with the audience of things that have actually gone really well by encouraging community?
So I think the one thing is just a much better understanding of what is needed in your organization from a data and analytics point of view, specifically formulating a data strategy that's not only aligned to the business strategy, but also aligned to what your analytics community need from an enablement point of view. And the lesson for me there is that no one is successful on their own. And a data strategy is actually 1% formulation and 99% execution. And that execution does not happen in isolation from other teams like your HR team and the analytics or your business analytics teams, or your IT teams like IT security, etc. So the lesson is, building communities is not just based on analytics communities, but I think it's based on building communities across all the teams in your organization, because data strategies it's a team sport, executing on them. And like I say, none of us can be successful on our own. And I think that's particularly true for data analytics initiatives.
Yeah, I completely agree. Strength in numbers for certain, and as you say, having that championship wider than the analytics and data teams for sure. So, as we look towards 2022, what's going to be kind of on your hit list at the start of the year? Any kind of wider goals as well? How's that looking?
I think the important thing is, again, from a data strategy execution point of view, data strategies by their nature drive transformation and change. So the focus is definitely going to be on facilitating that change. I think it's easy sometimes to underestimate how much change management is required when we execute things like self-service analytics or data literacy programs, etc. Because even if you have a really supportive organization and you have a very supportive BI and analytics community, you still need to focus on change management and making sure that you take people on that journey with you.
Yeah, Yeah, change is difficult. And I think even the best of us who think we're good at managing change do need support. And also, I know you and I have spoken before on our when we get together for our leading female executive panel discussions as well. That often it's a case of understanding the value, and that's going to be different for lots of different people. And again, that leans then into the community comment that if you've got a community built up of lots of different folk, you can communicate that in a different way and get that buy-in. Because as we know, you can have the best processes and strategies in place, but if people aren't bought into it, then it's just going to die a death, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
So really very crucial. And I mean, any kind of final overarching thoughts on what you'd like to share with the audience today, Maritza?
The one thing that I do want to say, and another valuable lesson learned over the last year, is that sometimes just get back to basics. Sometimes just focus on the straight line between 2 points. Sometimes an executive just wants the numbers. It doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be accurate. So I think we tend to overcomplicate things sometimes. And again, it comes back to empathy and actually walking in the shoes of our users and just understanding they've got a very basic need. They have an immediate need. Focus on that, not on doing things in the right way, but just doing things right.
I love that. What a bombshell to end our conversation on today, Maritza. Well, I wish you a happy and healthy holiday, and I look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Same to you, Catherine.
Miguel, it's wonderful to see you. How are you doing?
I am very good, very good.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to ask you a few questions, but the first one I'd like to know is, how's your year been?
It's been great so far. It's been plenty of challenges. We have been facing a lot of regulations in the local market in Latin America, but so far so good.
I absolutely love that. What big challenges have you had, apart from obviously the regulation challenges?
Well, the other challenge that we have seen is rotation. We have seen a lot of rotation within our data and analytics teams in both countries, in Chile and Mexico, and that's a topic that we have to take care of for the next year.
I think that so many industries, no matter, it's certainly something I have heard about, the talent challenges. And I mean, what do you behind some of those turnovers and challenges in that direction?
Well, I'm pretty sure that the reason behind the scenes is that the companies are now seeing more and more programs within their companies. And unfortunately, we are not happy worldwide. So that's going to be here because we are having, and the demand is increasing.
I love that. Jumping the game there. Tell me, what is on this wish list of yours and how have you come?
My wish list is related, of course, with data and analytics. I have 3 of them. The first one is I would like to see worldwide increase data democratization projects and enhance all the data and analytics projects. That's going to be the first one. The second one in my wish list is I would like to have more offerings related with data and analytics, training, and knowledge share. Initiatives like the ones that we've got with Corinium, with our board. This could help to mitigate the market high demand on this kind of skills. And the last but not least, it's back to normality under a new and more allowing remote or hybrid work worldwide. This will help to mitigate the market high demand, as I said before, but also opening M&A resources in emerging economies.
Wonderful. Well, I'm surprised it's only 3 things on your wish list. I think you may have had to cut those down before this interview. I have a sneaking suspicion. But let's start with the first one and unpack that a little bit. Open source, democratization, 2 very big topics we've seen on the business of data this year and will continue to see so. Why do you think? Why is that on your wish list? But why do you think we're still in this place? I mean, it feels to me that this should have almost been sorted by now for so many organizations, that this is a regular thing.
Well, we have seen some progress, at least in Latin America. We have seen some progress at the government level for them trying to share open data. And basically, that open data is going to allow companies and organizations to be dealing and working with this information, combining all that data with internal data and creating additional data sets. So basically, that's what we are looking for. Because if the governments are offering this kind of information, basically it's going to be better and easier for us on the private sector to provide better analytical products.
Absolutely. And then that second point you mentioned, the comparison to the advisory board that you've been a member of here within Business of Data, a very active advisory board member as well, I might say. And you were saying that the value of that. What value have you found from taking part in the advisory board, and what do you want to kind of bring across to your organization?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. One of the greatest assets that I have seen being part of the board is to share my knowledge. We have seen, as I said before, a shortage on skill sets. We have seen a lot of demand on data scientists, on data engineers, on data governance specialists. And we need to promote the knowledge transfer and the knowledge share worldwide. Has been one of the most important privileges for me to be being part of the Business of Data board.
Absolutely. I think as you say, the strength behind knowledge sharing is so crucial, but actually being in that habit of sharing knowledge as well, creating the infrastructure, the spaces that you can share knowledge with each other as well, absolutely fundamental to keep those conversations going and growing. And speaking of going and growing, what's 2022 looking like ahead of you? What are you excited about?
Well, it's going to be plenty of challenges. New regulations are coming. Privacy regulations related with customer data. It's coming also, and politics. Politics is creating a big impact and influence on all the different data analytics initiatives that we've got in place. So the economy is moving and pushing so hard to have these kind of initiatives in place. So those three external factors are going to create an impact on the initiatives for 2022.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Well, Miguel, it's always lovely to chat with you. Thank you so much for being part of this celebration today. And I do wish you a healthy and happy festive season.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And Happy New Year and Merry Christmas for you and the rest of the audience.
Dan, so lovely to see you. Happy holidays. How are you doing?
Great, thank you. It's great to see you too. Happy holidays.
Wonderful. Well, before I ask you what is on your data analytics wish list, I'll put my teeth back in to start this. I'd love to know, how has your last year been?
You know, it's been great. It's kind of like that phrase from the beginning of The Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I think we've still been dealing with COVID, so I've mostly been working from home. I am going into the office one day a week now. And, you know, I miss my colleagues. And it was great to do a face-to-face event with the Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Fall Summit in Boston a few weeks ago. And I was very happy to be invited to chair that event, so thank you. The tough part is, you know, I feel sometimes like big enterprises, I can only speak for State Street, but we're so big that we're like 20 other businesses that are all kind of fused together at the hip, and there's a lot of silos. And so sometimes I feel like my real function within the company is to act as the bridger of silos, you know, to run around and, you know, get people excited and enthusiastic, and to evangelize ideas, and to bring together business and IT, and to bring together different business units and get everybody on the same page. Not so much through the persuasiveness of my ideas, but a lot of times it's just because no one else is doing it. And I feel like, well, somebody has to jump into the breach and get these two groups talking to each other. But we've made a lot of progress. We have a corporate data strategy now. for the whole corporation, which is it's all good stuff that you wouldn't really want to argue with or say we shouldn't do. Now, is there another generation of that data strategy that will be needed? Maybe next year, maybe the year after. Sure, and I think that's normal. We will evolve as there are successive business problems. The problem with solving problems is there's always another problem behind it. So you just get to keep solving problems, endlessly. And they even have a name for that. It's called the moving bottleneck problem. If you are talking about a computer system and your disk is not fast enough, well, as soon as you fix the disk, then something else is not fast enough. The memory, okay, we're gonna upgrade the RAM. Okay, well now the screen, or there's always another problem. But in the data and analytics space at my firm, what's interesting and exciting to see is the data professionals now are being listened to and have a voice at the table with senior management, people that we normally would, all that we would be able to do is say hi to them in the hallway. Now we have a seat at the table, and there's layers, of course. The MDs report to the SVPs, who report to EVPs, and so on. It's still very hierarchical, but we no longer have a situation where the middle of the pyramid is the only layer, and there's a missing layer at the top of the pyramid that isn't there. So we've got the pinship and sponsorship now, and we have that first generation data strategy, and we're starting to make some moves. And I'm not going to spoil the answer to the what's on my wish list question, because I definitely have one, and I've been a good boy this year, Santa, if you're listening.
I
So
love
no
that.
coal in the stocking, no coal in the stocking, please. I'm not sure I could bear it, but
Well,
we've made
I love
made a lot of progress.
Well, I was just about to say, I love hearing the progress you've made. And obviously, the fact that you are such an active advisory board member has meant that we've really been able to kind of walk with you on this journey. And it's been exciting that, as you say, you've now got this strategy and all the things you've been building towards, which is exciting. And of course, it was lovely to have you at CDO Fall this year. We managed to do several in-person events around the world when we've been able to, and I'm excited for 2022 going forwards, hopefully being able to do a bit more as the world starts to open up in this, hopefully what will be, after touch wood now, post-pandemic era, which is super exciting. But I think I can guess a few things that are going to be on this wish list, Dan, but I would love to hear it. And I'm gonna crack my knuckles, get ready to write it down, because it could be quite extensive. I fear.
Well, it's almost like, I'm not just putting things on the wish list and expecting that Santa and his elves will take care of it for me. I fully realize that, we have to do the work. So we're looking for a new data governance catalog. We're going to tie that into data lineage discovery so that we can quickly not only catalog all of our data assets and domains, applications, databases, etc., but we can also figure out what the connections are, because it's crucial to know what other applications does this application talk to. And then we're adding a data quality component as well, so that we can say, okay, now that we've identified all the applications in this food chain, and we understand where the data is flowing from place to place to place, we have to be able to assure the quality of the data. So at least for certain critical reports, for example, at the end of the food chain, we can work backward and figure out what are the appropriate places to assure quality of the data. Because we spend a lot of time fixing data quality issues. And so if you only hear about them anecdotally, then first of all, that takes time to make it to your ears. Secondly, there's a lot of back and forth and meetings and email messages and everything else to fix them. And one study I saw, and don't ask me for the source because it's lost in the midst of time, but it's up to 20 times less expensive to fix something at the source than it is to wait and fix it once it's reached downstream. And I know I had one client when I was consulting that they had an issue with the unit of measure. So when they created a new product or part or component, if they didn't get the unit of measure right, then by the time they figured it out, it had already propagated to 40 different systems. So instead of fixing it in one place, they had to go fix it in 40 different places. So obviously much more time consuming. So when you fix things like that, you can kind of fix them at the source or prevent them from being wrong in the first place, which is even better. Then obviously you do save a lot of time in the food chain from people having to run around and coordinate with each other and fix things.
And it's that type of activity, sorry to jump in on you there, Dan, but it's that sort of activity that I think is really strong for so many leaders, that they can quickly prove a return of investment. Because to the lay person, you can walk into a board meeting and explain exactly how you did then, and everyone gets it because that makes sense, right? So yeah, sorry to cut you off. I wanted to kind of really pull out that point because I thought it was exciting.
That's exactly that's one of the components of our business case. And the tough part is you have sometimes got a reaction from people that say, well, yeah, okay, we know that it's going to take 30 people to go fix this data issue, but we don't really value those people, so it doesn't really matter what they do. If it takes them an hour a piece or 100 hours a piece, doesn't matter. What we're finding now is that these are people that have day jobs, and by taking an hour out of their day job to work on this data quality issue, there's a huge opportunity cost there. So it's not just the cost of that hour that you're saving, it's the distraction from their real mission that you're saving, so that they don't have that penalty of, well, I didn't get to this thing today because I spent all my time in meetings trying to fix this data quality issue. So it's actually a bigger savings than you think, purely on the justification of, number of hours of work reduced. So that's the wish list, and we know we're going to have to be the elves, working on Santa's behalf to deliver it. But between, a better catalog function, better lineage function, and better quality function, we think that will take us to the next level. And the funny thing is, I just had a meeting a few minutes ago with someone in IT who's working on the next generation data strategy. So, the current one will probably take us out through the end of 22. And so we're already working on the data strategy for 2023 and beyond, which will be more advanced. It will have, better analytics, better machine learning, and it will kind of not take for granted, but it will take as a given all of the things that are on the 2022 wish list. So we're starting to think ahead, which is also good for us because we're working our way out of a large amount of technical debt. Nothing dangerous. Obviously, we're a big enough component of the financial system that people would get, scared if we said, oh, we have a huge problem. We don't have a huge problem. We're just trying to make things more efficient, more resilient, faster. We would love to be able to do in 3 months what currently takes us 6 months. So, open a new client account. Instead of it taking 45 days, let's have it take 45 minutes. Those kind of step changes that just make everything safer, faster, cheaper, more reliable, etc.
Absolutely. And I do hope your colleagues are watching this interview, Dan, because when you go back into the meeting and call them elves, they're going to be very confused. But I think that's a good collective. Come on, elves, let's do it.
Aren't we all elves in the end? We're all elves in the end for somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the last question I'd like to ask you, Dan, is for our audience watching today, what would be the sorts of things you'd encourage them to think about as they head into 2022?
That's a really good question. I always try to start with the people. What are you doing about your organizational culture, organizational change management, leadership, messaging? This stuff doesn't happen by accident. It takes individuals at fairly high levels in the company to have a vision and to communicate that vision and get people excited about it, to evangelize it, to recruit others. We talk about, executive champions and sponsors, but really you need a whole, army. You want a bunch of people that are all kind of singing from the same playbook. And, they may have their own reasons. Someone may say, well, I'm an architect and this is my part of it. And, someone else may say, well, I'm a business owner and I have to be profitable. But the idea is that your data management vision supports the corporate vision and it supports the corporate strategy. So you can take your corporate strategy and from it, you kind of work backward and say, well, what is the data strategy needed to support the corporate strategy? If we want to double in size in 5 years, well, what will we have to do from a data perspective to allow that? Or, whatever the details may be. So if you get the executives working and thinking about this stuff, and it kind of makes its way into the corporate data strategy, then you can work your way down to the business units and recruit champions there too, and say, hey, we're going to, make these moves at the business unit level, and hopefully that becomes a template for the other business units to follow. And we'll be the pioneers that kind of figure everything out and let the others follow our lead and our model. So you really start with the people. The technology ends up being the least difficult. And I think redesigning the business processes can be challenging too, but I would start with the people, then worry about the processes, then worry about the technology.
Amazing. Dan, thank you as always. I wish you a healthy and happy holiday season, and we'll catch up really soon.
Thank you. And hopefully by then, my Christmas tree will be a little bigger. I'm working on an actual
Awesome.
life-size Christmas tree, but it's still a little too early to do that. So hopefully next time you see me, I'll have a full-size Christmas tree as my background.
Awesome. Take care, Dan.
Thanks very much. Great talking to you.